Hello there. So I'm just going to wait a little bit and see if we can get some people here, and then I will get started speaking about one of my all-time favorite scales, the pentatonic scale. And we're going to speak a little bit about how you can sort of unlock your fretboard and start moving things around, and also how you can get more advanced and add some crazy cool notes to that pentatonic scale. Cool, we got a viewer. What's up, man? Can you see and hear me? So I will get rolling now and speak a little bit about one of my all-time favorite scales, which is the pentatonic scale. But there are a lot of misconceptions surrounding this scale, so I think it's well worth spending a little bit time just explaining you what it is. It is a scale that only contains 5 notes, hence the name pentatonic. Now this might seem a little confusing because if you look at that first scale diagram below the video here, you're going to see there are lots of dots there, right? Many more than 5. So what gives? So the point is that these 5 notes, they actually repeat over and over and over again, because let's remember, there are only 12 notes to choose from in Western music. So that means that on your guitar, you only have 12 notes. that repeat all over and over again. On the guitar, it's a little bit hard to see how they repeat, whereas on the piano, it's super easy. You see each octave looks the same, right? But anyhow, we're going to play these 5 notes out of those 12 notes available, and that gives us this specific scale pattern, which I've linked to. So basically, it's this thing. Joji, what's up, my man? So basically, we can play this pattern up and down, and that's going to be okay for a starter because it allows us to visualize where the notes are. In the long run, though, if you keep playing it this way, up and down, it's going to be a little bit boring. So what I suggest you do is basically just pause this video and go through the scale diagram so that you can see where the notes are. Now that you've got somewhat an impression of where the notes are, I'm going to show you a more interesting way of playing this scale. First of all, let's not play it up and down like a boring exercise, okay? No one wants to hear boring exercises. People want to hear music. Music is how you'll accomplish anything on this instrument. So we're going to start with making music, and then you can add cool licks and fancy stuff on top of that. That's going to be great. So, Chris, how do we create music? Joji, I know you already know this. So anyhow, what we're going to do is we're going to hit that A string, and that's going to allow us to hear the right harmony in the background, because the scale diagram I've given you is in the key of A minor pentatonic. If we do not hear this specific note in the background, it will not allow us to hear the scale as it's meant to be heard. And basically, you're not going to be hearing the pentatonic scale. You could be hearing any random scale. And that is not going to be helpful as you attempt to build upon this knowledge. So very important, we need to hear the harmony of A in the background. Here we have it. Once we've got the right harmony in the background, we can do whatever we want within this box, and we certainly do not have to play it up and down, okay? That's super important. So there we go. We have the right note in the background, and now we can try just any note. Now, of course, if you just started out, you're not going to be able to do this. You could do it really simple. Just play that note and then... Sounds fine to me. Right? It sounds incredibly much more interesting than up and down, right? This gets kind of boring after a while. So yeah, there we have it, our background note. You can do a lot of stuff just with these notes. So you don't even have to play all 5 notes. You can just play 3 notes and it sounds awesome. So the lesson to be learned here is that you do not and should not spend your time playing scales up and down, okay? You should spend your time in the beginning when learning a scale just hearing the right harmony in the background and playing just a few notes. And you should try to make a connection with the scale. Now that's a fancy way of just saying you should try to play something that sounds cool to you. Then you will be making that connection, okay? So... Whoops, that was outside of the scale. Viking Mike, what's up? A few years ago, saw your tapping tutorial when I started playing 16 years ago. That's awesome, man. Awesome to have you here. So I'm just going through the pentatonic scale, and I'll be taking it from beginner to sort of pro level. So you, regardless of your level, you can watch and you're going to see how we're going to evolve this concept into something that gets a bit more crazy. So I've established now, and I'm going to repeat this, that the best way to learn a scale is to not play it up and down, but rather to just play a few notes and see if you can connect with the scale, if you can play anything that sounds cool to you. Once you've got that, it's going to be easy to expand with another note and then another note, and you're going to have 0 problems memorizing the scale because you will have learned the scale correctly. You don't tend to forget a lick that you come up with and that sounds cool to you. However, you do tend to forget just a random long pattern. Okay? So hopefully I've sort of hammered in this concept now of starting, the musical way and then adding anything you want on top of that, right? Because it sounds pretty cool to do. You can add anything you want afterwards if you have that musical foundation. Okay, what if you already know this scale box? What if you already are comfortable with a bunch of licks in that scale box? What if you want to take it further and start playing around on the fretboard? How would you do that? Well, I've given you the adjacent scale box, meaning the scale box that is right beside this one. And that can be super useful for you because it allows you to start moving in between two different pentatonic boxes. Once you understand this concept, then all you gotta do after that is learn the remaining three, there we have our 3 fingers, 3 scale boxes. And you're gonna be able to freely move around the entire fretboard using that pentatonic scale as your foundation. So what I'm gonna do is just play this scale box up and down. Again, we can do that in the beginning just to sort of visualize where those dots are. And it looks like this. Okay, no, not very intriguing, a little bit boring, but anyhow, there we have the notes, right? So once you visualize where those notes are, I suggest you start the same way as previously. You hear that, A note as your foundation. You can even start with the same lick as we did previously. Whatever. And then what I want you to do is visualize where those dots in the second position were and slide into that position, okay? Oh, there we did it. We did our very first position shift. And this, my friend, is the key to unlocking the entire fretboard, okay? If you've understood that concept, how you can move in between boxes without playing them like boring exercises up and down. We could do it this way, right? We could play the first box. We could play that was the first box, and then we can play the second box. And the third box, right? But that would just be a boring exercise. Even if you were able to pull that off, you would quickly forget about it, right? So we're not gonna do that. Instead, we're gonna do what I just showed you. Hit that A note, so we hear the right note as our harmonic foundation. We're gonna play a few notes from that first box. And then we're gonna slide into the next box. Okay. And then slide back again. If you're not familiar with slides, they involve picking a note and then without picking again, moving our left hand around. Which means we're gonna have to apply a somewhat even amount of pressure on that note in order to be able to slide it around. Okay, so in order to really start moving around freely between these two boxes, I suggest you do the same thing maybe for another string. Now this process I'm showing you, now it's in a very short time frame, right? But in real life, this would take you at least a couple of days. Just get a hang of that first box, connect with it, see if you can come up with some kind of phrase on your own, and then move to the next box. You would probably do that after a week or something like that, right? Let's try it out. I'm going up to the B string there, and I'm sliding into the second box. Right, there we go. Okay, so here definitely is a concept that if you want to, can take you all the way to right, start moving around like crazy here. So you can go as crazy as you want with it. Okay, so now I've told you how to get started with the very first pentatonic box. I've explained how you can start working your way into the adjacent second Pentatonic box in order to start freeing up that fretboard so you can play horizontally if you want to, or just vertically sticking to one position, or diagonally, really moving from the first position there into the second position, so you get that kind of diagonal movement. But what if you're a bit tired of that pentatonic sound? What if you're pretty used to playing these standard rock licks and you want something with a bit more tension, with a bit more flavor, that sounds a bit more exotic or more advanced? Here's an interesting little showcase I'm going to try to do for you. I'm going to try to add all notes available to us on the guitar to this pentatonic box, and we're going to see what kind of sounds we get from that, right? We have our 5 notes, which are the pentatonic notes. And we're gonna add a first note. Let's do the major third, okay? It's here on the 6th fret G string. So we have that A as our background. There it is. Sounds kind of bad on its own. But if you just lightly touch it, it sounds pretty cool. That's the major third. Now let's do that classic flat 5th or bluesy note. It's this note, the 8th fret on the G string. Classic blues sound. Now let's combine both the major third and that flat 5th. Woohoo! That sounds a bit too crazy. However, if again we make sure we only lightly touch it, let's try it again. To me that sounds pretty cool. We're adding that slight exotic touch. It's a bit like if you're cooking and you're adding a bit of chili in there, just a little bit, and it starts sounding more interesting. Okay, so now we've added 2 notes upon our 5 notes. So we played 7 notes out of 12 notes available. So let's add a 3rd note. Let's go for the Dorian note here on the 7th fret B string. Pretty cool. Sounds good. Let's try all 3. I'd say we're definitely into fusion land with just 3 notes added onto that pentatonic scale. I'd say we're pretty far into fusion land actually. But let's keep going now. Let's add that 2nd note, or the 9th, whatever you want to call it. It's here on the high E string on the 7th fret. That's a pretty clean sounding note. It's part of the minor scale, so it's nothing super fancy, but it allows us to do those 3 note per string runs, so it's always welcome. Now, let's try all 4 of those notes. I like it. It's sounding really crazy now. Okay, so now it gets more difficult here. We're gonna add the minor 6, which is just below the Dorian note, and it's here 6th fret on the B string. Yeah, sounds okay, but let's try adding it to all the other ones. So it's possible. It sounds even more crazy. Now let's do the minor 2nd here on the 6th fret E string. This one is going to be very tricky to pull off on its own, or to make sound good on its own. But I think it's going to be a bit easier if we add the other ones. Let's first try it on its own. It's okay if I play fast and just lightly touch it. Now let's add this one with all the other ones. And to be honest with you, I've lost my count here. I think we've done we just have one single note left. So that means we've done 11 notes in total. 5 pentatonic notes and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 other notes. So we have 5 plus 6, 11 notes. We just have one note left after this. So this is going to be interesting. Oh, I'm not sure we want another note in there, but let's do it anyway. So we're gonna add the major 7 here, which you could play, or actually, we're gonna do it here, that's easier. So the 6th fret D string. If you play like that, 5, 6, 7, and then do some kind of hammer on pull up there, you can get away with that. It's almost going to sound like rock and roll. Not too bad. So if we add all of that, we're going to get all 12 notes. So you might be wondering, well, you're not playing it over the entire fretboard. That's true, but as I've told you, these 12 notes, they repeat all over the fretboard. So I'm playing all 12 notes that are available, but I don't play them in every position. That could be a topic for another video maybe, but I think for now this is more than enough. So let's try it. There we have it, that major 7 I just showed you. Oh, there we did it. So all 7 notes added to the pentatonic scale. So I guess this could be seen as a fancy show off, I don't know. But the reason I'm doing this is to show you that you could just learn the pentatonic scale. That could be your only theoretic foundation. And then you could just experiment adding notes on top of that, totally disregarding what their theory names are, you know, that's not necessarily needed to know. Again, if you make a personal connection to the scale, then you can add another note and you're going to make a personal connection to that other note, and you no longer need to know the names of those notes. Sure, it can facilitate things if you're communicating with other musicians and all of that, but just for the sake of learning to play, you don't have to get into complicated stuff. You can definitely just have the pentatonic scale as your starting point and then add notes on top of that. And that, my friend, is today's lesson. So I really hope this somehow helps you. I tried going from super beginner to advanced, so there hopefully is a little bit of everything here. And please be sure to just rewind many times to sort of digest some of the concepts here. I went through it all pretty quickly. If you want more of my licks and my teaching, you have a link below. I would recommend going to my free email course or just checking out my website, GMC. And yeah, it's been really cool to see you guys. It's been a long time, and I'm gonna start doing more of these is my plan. And I'm doing it more often on my bigger GMC channels, which is on Facebook and on YouTube. But I like to do it as well on my private channel here. I can go a bit more shred than I perhaps would normally do. And that's always fun. So yeah, I hope to hear back from you. Have a good time and good luck with the pentatonic scale. See ya. Cheers. I hope to hear back.